Thanks.
Have a great show.
Thanks.
Are you curious about bodies, pleasure, and possibilities? And what about curious about what others are up to on the planet when it comes to pleasure, sex, and play? Have you considered what pleasure can do for your life, your body, and your bank account? Do you know something magical, delightful, and out of this world orgasmic is not only possible for you, but totally available to you? If you're ready to be the magical, sexual, sexy beast you know you can be, and you just need the tools to get there, you're in the right place. Now, here is the host of The Pleasure Zone, sex, relationship, and intimacy coach and holistic health practitioner, Milica Jelenic.
Welcome, my sweet pleasure seekers. Today, this topic is for me, but it's probably also for a lot of you. The topic, and I've talked about this topic before, so this isn't really news, but what I thought was, what a season. Lots of people going through lots of stuff. It's not just the season because of Christmas, it's just like the season of life, I think. I think I have a lot of friends who are old enough to be having parents die, grandparents die. There's all those stresses, looking after people. All that stuff can really lead to burnout. And what I'm talking about today is how do we go from burnout to sexual invigoration, feeling alive again sexually? There's got to be a way, right? So if you've had trouble prioritizing your sexual pleasure, this is the place for you. And it doesn't mean that you have to have penetration, but we're going to talk about some options because all of this can be really helpful in helping your body regulate all those things that go off. So we're going to be talking about the link between stress and decreased libido. We're going to talk about time management hacks to create space for intimacy. We're going to talk about those little things you can do to boost arousal, even on really busy days or really stressful days. And we're going to give you some tips for self-care that can support sexual wellness. So I think, and I hope that we can get through all of this in one in one foul swoop on this episode. We may have to do part two, but for now, we're going to stick with part one. And I think it's just perfect timing. I've had a week, guys. Like, I don't even want to get into it with you because I like to know that if I put too much energy into it, it's just gonna like create more and more of whatever that is. So I'm looking at shifting the energy so that life can become easier, more delightful, and for everyone involved. So so what do we do to actually start to first, I think we need to recognize what burnout is, right? So one of the things people often say, I'm stressed and burnt out. Well, stress is actually when your body is going through a response of fight or flight. And so that's in when you're experiencing in the polyvagal response, you're experiencing fight or flight. Burnout is when you're experiencing frozen. Burnout is also associated with being overworked and underacknowledged or underappreciated, where stress is not the same. Stress is just having your body be overly stimulated. Sometimes, and small amounts of stress are healthy, but it's the prolonged stress that can actually cause a lot of issues. So we're going to talk about what are those issues, what are they doing to us. And again, it's not necessarily like that everybody would have the same issues. Like maybe the things that stress me out would be things that really get other people going because they've gone through it and they have solutions, they know what to do. And vice versa. There may be things that, I have lots of times where clients come to me and I'm like, oh, I know the easy fix to that, right? But for them, it's something that's been daunting. So the beautiful thing is we're on a planet with like 7.9 billion, maybe 8 billion people. And we all have different methods and ways of dealing through life. And the greatest thing is being able to connect with people to find solutions and resolutions. So, what I'm sharing with you today is going to be things that I am aware of, the simple things that I do. And hopefully, these will be really helpful for you guys in being able to feel more confident in moving forward with having sexual invigoration rather than feeling maybe sexually stumped or any of that. So Who I am is a person who has always been curious about, yeah, actually always. I've always been curious about my own body's pleasure. So whether I had words for that or not as a child is one thing. But as I got older, I started to get actually curious and figure out like the hows and the whats and all of that. And further learned even more curiosity about things like sociology and anthropology and all psychology of sexual attraction and what's gone on for centuries, all that kind of stuff. All this stuff that if you've been an avid listener, you've heard episodes on pretty much every single of those topics, including things that are kink related. And just like, how do we get through our everyday? Because sometimes we're at a place where it's lovely to think about kink, but then, we've gone through burnout. So what do we do? Because, burnout, right? So, as a sex and intimacy coach, which is one of the things I do and offer in my practice, I work with people to be able to help them find and navigate the things that maybe they forgot they like to do, or maybe they never knew they like to do. So we look at all kinds of things on how to bring intimacy back into your life, how to bring pleasure back into your life. Whether you're solo or with a partner, doesn't matter because you can have that even on your own. So the other thing that I do is I'm a holistic health practitioner and I work with people using various technologies as well as various hands-on methods. And most of the work I do can be done from a distance, but I absolutely love doing work in person, especially movement on bodies that is somatic movement work. Love it. Um, the other thing that I love to do is teach classes and host retreats, which I am really excited about offering up retreats. So for those of you who are interested in retreats, feel free to send me a message on my website and just say, hey, I'm curious, what kind of retreats do you have? I have a lot of different things I offer in retreats. So they are individually created for the people who come. And by small retreats, I mean like 6 to 8 people for, between 1 to like 3 days, maybe 4 days max, of really fun and interesting things that will help you and your life, your body in so many different ways. So if that's something that does interest you, go over to milicajelenic.com and just send me a message through that website and I will get that and be able to connect with you. So what we're going to be talking about today, because man, so many of us just are so tired, and I know so many of us feel underappreciated, even though sometimes we don't ask for the feedback or the appreciation, which is helpful. Communication is key, and sometimes it's just lent to the fact that things have fallen on into our path and on our shoulders. Like, for me right now, it's looking after an aging father who is presenting a lot of challenges. So, how do we navigate that and still be present for our partners in our life? How do you still be a present, sexy partner, even though your body and your brain is constantly thinking about so many things that are uh, need to be done, need to be addressed? Like it can be so, so exhausting to the point where sometimes your body just goes, meh, who cares? But for me, I think, and it could be because I'm aware of it, and it could be because I also utilize sex for helping me release stress, as well as using it to heal. So I might have a different approach to this than maybe the average person who might just walk away and avoid it. Because burnout does bring you to that frozen state where you might feel nothing, desire nothing, and not really care. And then depression sets in. And then it's like, where are my happy hormones? And just even bringing them back one little step at a time. So we are going to talk about that, about how stress affects your libido. Then we're going to talk about those simple hacks to make time for intimacy. And then we're going to talk about practices to boost arousal. And so much more self-care, looking after ourselves, because burnout is not fun and pleasure is so much better. It's also not to ignore that you're experiencing burnout. It's to like acknowledge, oh, I'm going through burnout. What is the cause of this? Like, what is the root of where this burnout is coming from? And then sometimes you can address the things that are causing burnout, take action, get a little win, get some, endorphins going because you had a little win, and that can help shift the mood and internal mood as well as externally, how the rest of the people around you see what's going on with you. So one of the things that we're going to talk about is how certain things, like how stress impacts hormone levels, like cortisol versus testosterone and estrogen, um, and then the different physiological effects of stress on desire. How does that then translate into your genitals? Like, how do your genitals or your erogenous zones react to the stress? Yeah, guys, this is a big one. So let's look at first what happens in the body, the impacts of hormone levels like cortisol versus testosterone, estrogen, all of that. So when our bodies experience stress, what it does is, as I mentioned before, it activates fight or flight, which can be good in certain circumstances. It's a survival mechanism, and we want to be able to have that kick in. If it doesn't kick in, that's actually more worrisome in situations where it's required. So you need to be able to react to a situation, say, your house is on fire. You don't want to be sitting there laissez-faire, just like, oh, whatever, I'm just gonna, sit through this fire and let it consume me. You want to be in fight or flight at that time. So your adrenals need to respond to that. Your whole body needs to respond to, whoa, there is a deadly situation here, and your body should be able to respond according to the level of threat, right? So if our bodies are going through an immense level of threat, then what are the chances you're going to feel horny? Like if you're feeling like your house is on fire 24/7 and you're sitting there frozen and the fire's going on around you, what are the chances you're going to be like, this is sexy, let's get it on? So, really low, by the way, really, really low. Even if you're a bit of a masochist, it's still going to be low because what happens is our basically what happens is our bodies, when they're in fight or flight, they are not interested in sex. Like, why would they be? Let's look at like nature, right? If an animal is ill or if it's under duress, if it's been, say, it's been abused for a really long time and the animal is completely stressed, maybe it was like locked in a cage or something. Animals in stress, the chances of that animal trying to mate are really slim because there is not only no desire in them to mate, there's also no like instinctual knowing that their offspring would survive. It's like if they feel like they're dying, why would their offspring survive? So there's been studies with rabbits that rabbits will procreate less in times when there's like less, if they sense that there's like less food going to be available, if there's going to be weather pattern changes, or if they've noticed that there's like um, just less food available, they don't procreate because what's the point? Your offspring aren't going to survive. So the instinct of sex isn't there, but the pleasure, we can add the pleasure part to bring our bodies to a place of calm and like a state of arousal that's calm, pleasurable, connected arousal rather than the arousal of fight or flight. So why does like why would we want to have sex if we're under that much stress? Who would? You wouldn't. Your body is going to be scared, too scared to react. So at the very, very base of all of this fight or flight response, we've got a few hormones, but the very core is cortisol. And you probably, if you're on the internet these days, you probably hear a lot of things around the connection between cortisol and estrogen. If your estrogen is imbalanced, you might have really imbalanced cortisol levels, probably really high, making your body hold on to weight because your body thinks it's going to die. So it needs to hold on to fat cells. It needs to hold on to anything that's going to keep you alive. So cortisol will do things, right? So now your body might gain weight. So now maybe your self-image is different. So many things. But in stressful situations, the when the adrenal glands release that cortisol, the body starts to respond as if it's going to die, and it will either fight or flight, there's freeze and fawn and all of that. But and there's a few other ones that people talk about now too. So what cortisol does is it increases your alertness, and then it redirects energy from all the essential functions like your heart and your muscle, and it suppresses the non-urgent processes like digestion, immunity, and reproductive functions. So like I was saying earlier, your body will not care. If it's in fight or flight, it doesn't care about making babies. And this is true when you look through the animal kingdom too. You're not going to see animals reproducing when they're under stress. They just don't. Everything goes to keeping you alive. So when your cortisol levels are increasing and your adrenal glands are releasing cortisol maybe by the minute, your whole body is going to respond with less digestion or really like wacky digestion. So you might have like diarrhea one day, constipation the next, or even within hours, you might have it flipping because your body doesn't know what to do. Also, that has to do with how you eliminate poo. So that's another like story unto itself. But it will change your immunity because it's just trying to keep you to survive. So your immunity will become lower. So catching things like colds or even autoimmune disorders over a long period of time start to kick in. And because of, all of these things just having you survive, all those reproductive functions also start to diminish. Like even the ability to reproduce will diminish, the desire to reproduce will diminish, all of that starts to change. So high cortisol levels over prolonged periods of time can really affect things like particularly like testosterone in men and women. And it will affect estrogen primarily in women. Men have estrogen too, by the way. It's always funny because like real men have testosterone. Well, real women do too, guys, or we die. So testosterone is essential for libido and for sexual function, and chronic stress reduces that. It reduces your testosterone. It reduces the production of testosterone, which leads to lower sex drive and lower energy in general. Like your desire to get up and do anything is really low. So that frozen state, cortisol is really high. You're in frozen state, depression kicks in, heart functions are barely functioning. You might have really high blood pressure because now everything's pumping to your heart to keep you alive. But even then, at some point, it just like starts to fizzle and like starts to go away. So frozen, your digestive system is frozen, so that's not going to work as well either. So we really need to bring our bodies back to a place of calm in order for them to feel connected. And the coolest thing about the polyvagal response, if you've ever looked at charts for the polyvagal response, is that getting to the place of connection actually helps your body be calm and starts to manage and balance out those hormones. So, being in communities, feeling loved, having all those happy hormones kick in, like through hugs, through touch, through affirmation, through also through wins, like getting those endorphins in through different wins. So, also, stress generally in women can disrupt estrogen levels, either making them really high, really low, and it'll just impact mood and arousal too. So, certain really low levels of estrogen will create dryness. Yeah, and that creates painful sex in the end, unless, you're using lubricant and helpers. So the thing is, this can become like a bit of a really vicious cycle. And that vicious cycle is where, as the stress increases, the cortisol levels increase, and your libido declines, and then you don't really want to have intimacy. But the thing is, we can turn it around as long as you're diligent and you're choosing into being able to reduce those cortisol levels, or have them become balanced, right? You can start to bring your body back to normal. So high cortisol levels can contribute to things like fatigue, irritability, poor sleep. And some people have really erratic cortisol levels because they might have something like Addison's disease. So you gotta, I think it's Addison's disease, not Addison's disorder. So you gotta pay attention to these things, or you can end up with like really chronic conditions in your body that are really hard to resolve. So, how do we change this? We're going to talk about that when we come back. You're listening to the Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for the Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email become a host at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@milicajelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet pleasure seekers. So in the last segment, we were talking about how cortisol levels affect things like testosterone and estrogen. And what we learned, what maybe you learned, what we're sharing today is that chronic stress leads to elevated cortisol levels, which in turn suppresses your libido. And your libido is going to be suppressed because your testosterone is lowering, and it also disrupts estrogen balance. So sometimes your estrogen will skyrocket, sometimes it'll go low, it'll be out of whack. So what we need to do is find the time, because usually with burnout, it's like when you're working so hard and not feeling appreciated, it's also that it feels like there's never enough time in the day to really appreciate your partner or even yourself. Let's start with yourself. So we need to make the time for ourselves, which we are going to talk more specifically about as well in the little segment on tips for self-care that support sexual wellness. But time management, one of the things that, and I've talked about this on the show before too, is to actually put on your calendar that you're going to have a date. And you can also have put on your calendar, like, Tuesday night sex or something. However, sometimes that leads to more pressure or anxiety for people who are already feeling burnt out. Like, well, it's Tuesday night sex. I have to do this sex because it's Tuesday night, and it's not out of desire. What it is the calendar for intimacy dates is more about finding a way that you can connect with your partner. So if that's, the two of you sitting down and looking out your window and staring at the stars, that's great. If you're just lying in bed telling silly little goofy stories to each other, that's great. It doesn't have to be penetration sex, right? I think that that can also be really stressful if you're going through a lot of stress already. The stress of trying to be aroused when your body just isn't, and then it's like you're trying to fake it till you make it. That's not fun. It's not fun for anybody involved. So it's better off to just be honest and be like, you know what? My body's really burned out, but what I could do is cuddle, and I probably really love that. And it would be really helpful to lower my cortisol levels and help my body be calm. I'd love like a big, long, deep cuddle. That would be so great. And just being able to ask for that. And, if your partner is super busy and you're super busy, then, making that time even before you go to bed just to be with each other for 15 minutes or 20 minutes where you're both awake enough to have time together. You're both important to each other, I would hope, or maybe you wouldn't be together. So if you are together and you love your partner, then make the time to be together, even if it's 15 minutes. It doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be a whole day. It's just the commitment that you're choosing each other is really, really helpful. You can also have like little tiny gestures of love during the day, moments of like feeling connected. So in our house, we're like big butt grabbers. And so if I'm like doing something in the kitchen, my husband's way of going, I love you and find you sexy is to like slap my ass or grab my butt, which I mean, I love it. Not everybody loves it. I do. So you got to get what you got to do for your partner, what they love. I like to fake dry hump my husband from behind. And he just laughs at me like he finds it hilarious. So whatever turns you on and floats your boat and switches the mood and helps the stress go down, all of those are helpful. It could be, as simple as that, as simple as what I just said, like grabbing each other's butts, by permission. Like sometimes there are times in a relationship, if you don't like that and you've told your partner you don't like that and they keep doing that, that's not okay. But if you like it the way that I like it when my partner does that, then it's cool. You're cool. You can have these unspoken agreements. It's like, you know what? Cheers up my day when you grab my butt. Okay, cool. And then they do, and then you're happy, right? So so just find those fun days or smile at each other, just walking through the hall or give each other a hug or a kiss on the cheek. It can be really simple, just creating that connection, intentionally creating that connection so that your partner feels appreciated, right? And if you see that your partner is going through burnout, do things that help them feel appreciated. And if they don't know if you don't know what that is, you can ask them, what can I do that will help you feel appreciated? And if they say to you something like, well, you could do the laundry, know that they actually mean that you could do the laundry and that would help them feel appreciated. Because sometimes it's those acts of service that you just think are silly. Why would that make you feel appreciated? They're telling you clear as day that that is what would help them feel more loved and more appreciated. So just do it. Just do it, especially if you are physically able to. And really, your partner shouldn't have to tell you to do laundry. You're an adult. But I'm using that as an example because that is one that comes up in conversations quite a lot with relationships. It's like, well, they don't tidy up this and they don't do that. It's like, wow, you're both grown-ups. You can both clean up without having to ask each other to clean up. Just try to be responsible adults. But sometimes you have to learn how to grow up too. So it's navigating those inner children that are so, well, he didn't do it, so I shouldn't have to do it, blah, blah, blah. Just be an adult. So delegating things like delegating tasks so that you can get things done, and also realizing like what's important. Do you really need to wash those windows today, or could you spend that 4 hours with your partner and wait for another day to wash those windows? Those windows are going nowhere unless they get blown out by a bomb or I don't know, a storm, but the chances are your windows are going nowhere. So hang out with your partner, enjoy them. There are things that are going to be pressing and important that you need to look after at the time immediately, like paying the bills on time and things like that. important, but there are other things that can wait. And you got to look at where are you, where are you putting your like your time and what are you valuing most? So if you're going to value your partner most, then it's important to show them that. So you don't need to have hours and hours of time, off in the day or like 2 weeks holiday to spend time with your partner. Because the chances are, if you hardly spend time with your partner now, then going on holidays for 2 weeks, you're not even going to know what to do with each other because you're so disconnected, you don't even know how to connect. So do the small little bits every day till you actually crave maybe going away for a night or 5 days or a week. And then maybe you never crave that because you already have all the intimacy that you require. So you might not feel like the need to have to run away to get that too. So yeah, have some have some fun with playing with your partner and listen to them because if they don't like having their bum spanked like I do, don't do that to them. Try something else. Maybe they want words of affirmation. Definitely use those 5 love languages that we've talked about repeatedly on this show to show your partner that you love them so that you can create that space of intimacy with them. Like, quality time. That's where you've put it on the calendar. Connecting with them throughout the day is like words of affirmation, and it could be uh, touch, physical touch. There could be gifts, maybe that you're like, oh, I made you cookies, that kind of thing. There could be, you know, uh, touch, acts of kindness. Anyway, I think I said them all. Use your love languages to express to the people that you love that you care about them to create greater, deeper intimacy. So, some things that you can do on like a daily basis for yourself that can help you to have, more um, like feel more aroused just on days when you don't feel aroused. You can do simple things. Like I have on my Spotify, I have some really great like 1 hour of hang drum music. It's meditation music. Also recently, I've really been getting into uh, Serbian Orthodox church music, which really relaxes me. I laugh because I think about when I was a kid, and the reason I started listening to it is 'cause I was thinking about when I was a kid, what brought me joy and what helped me feel connected was going to church and listening to the choir. And I loved it. So why would I not give myself that gift now? So now the joke is, I'll have that on in the car while I'm driving, and I'll say to my, all the teenagers in the car, I'm like, I churched you guys, and then they try and church me back. But their churching isn't as intense as Serbian Orthodox church music. The chanting is really, it hits my heart. So I do things on a daily basis that reduce stress for me, and you can do it within a few minutes, whether it's Wim Hof breathing, big fan of Wim Hof. You can get the Wim Hof app for like $5, I think, on your phone, and you can do the Wim Hof breathing, which he also does cold plunges and other things for strengthening. So yeah, he's got great methods, which are all type of, breath work from yoga. So you're looking at all of those techniques for meditation, whether you like just want to deep breathe or whether you want to listen to chanting or do some chanting to help you feel reconnected to reduce your stress. Those are great. Movement is great. You don't want to do really anything that's going to put more cortisol into your body. So like running is going to usually increase your cortisol because that's part of fight or flight. Flight is the running away. So the flight increases your cortisol too. So if you're trying to reduce cortisol, you want to get a little bit quieter, do some general walking, get your body to feel connected. I like to stretch and connect. Even if you don't have a partner that likes to massage or doesn't like to receive massage, but you do, you can do it for yourself. You can get like mini massager machines / vibrators / whatever. But actually, a good vibrator, even if you're not penetrating your genitals or trying to arouse yourself to orgasm, can be really helpful in reducing stress. And this is a weird, wacky one that I found is really helpful for when my body is really tired or I have like lower back pain, or if I'm feeling like my hips are tight. You can stick a vibrator of sorts, whether it's like a vibrating penis or a just like a regular handheld massage into your belly button. Your belly button has all these nerves and muscle connections in there. And man, the release is phenomenal. I came across that one day by accident, just testing out how my body felt putting um putting a massager in different places, and I was like, oh, I actually have this one. It's like an infrasound massage. So the the it's meant for therapeutic reasons. And the sound, it's infrasound, so the sound travels 6 inches into your body. And that one is a great one right in the belly button, and it just makes my body just zonk right out. So a lot of times if you've had tons of stress, you can do some interesting, fun things to the belly button. Um, I will work on people's belly buttons sometimes if they're like overly stressed. If they let me, I'll just like open the belly button up. I found once I worked on a lady's belly button. It was so random. I was in a class learning body work, and her body called for me to put my finger in her belly button. I was like, this is really weird, but is it okay with you if I stick my finger in your belly button? She was like, yeah. And the next day, the results her body had were crazy. I don't even want to like brag about it because then people have this expectation that I can do it for them. It was such a really specific request, and her body received it. And I specifically listened to what it was asking for, which was so peculiar, but I followed it, and there you go. So we can do that through, we can do things to have our bodies calm down. Different ways will definitely help. I'm also really big on doing things like uh, lymphatic massage, either getting it done or getting yourself a dry brush, and dry brushing your body to drain the lymphatic system can be really helpful, because then you're going to start to boost your immune system. When your cortisol is really high, your immune system gets shifty. So if you can also that circular motion of dry brushing your body up and down can really help reduce stress in the body, to help your body to let go of any of this stuff like stuck in your lymph, like toxins and all kinds of things. It'll start to excrete that, which is what you want to do. So it can be really simple. The touch can be a really simple way to reduce stress. If you don't have a partner, but you happen to have a pet, you might find that like cuddling your dog or your cat will also reduce stress. Even just a few minutes a day is really helpful. If you happen to have a partner, or if you happen to have other people in the house that are willing to cuddle you, fantastic. Touch is such a great form of relaxation. So the other thing, so those are some of the mind body techniques, right? Doing things for your body like massage or doing meditation, deep breathing, mental shifts. You can do just really simple things like peck on the cheek. If you again don't have anybody to do that with, then you can touch your own self, like put your own hands on where your heart chakra would be. So that's like in between well, I say in between my breasts, but then I think about some people who have like really mega kajangas, and maybe in between their breasts is somewhere down by their knees. So I'm talking like in your chest, up on your chest. Put your hands there, close to where your physical heart is, in the center, hands on your heart chakra, and just breathe. So get the touch connection going on with that. You can, if you feel like you're going to fall asleep, like set a timer or have music that's only set to like 10 or 15 minutes, just so that you don't fall asleep when you're trying to reduce stress, say at the beginning of a day and you're like late for work or something. You want to make sure you're taking care of all of that. And when you are connecting with your partner, make sure that you are breathing, and you can breathe in tandem with each other, which is lovely. So sometimes one partner will become the leader. So you'll maybe be breathing in and then your partner follows. If your partner isn't aware of how to do that, then follow their breathing. And then as you follow their breathing, you can deepen their breathing by you deepening your breathing. It becomes almost like an automated thing where your bodies get used to breathing in tandem, and then you can redirect the energy and get the breath to go deeper and deeper and deeper. And be present. Look at your partner. If you have a hard time looking your partner in the eye, look at their left eye with both eyes, because sometimes looking at both eyes with both eyes gets shifty. So one of the ways is that you look at your partner's left eye. Some people say that's the connection to their heart. I just say it's easy to pick left eye or right eye, but I find that my eyes go to the left, so it's easier for me to look to the left and be present and look at them for like 30 seconds straight, and then maybe even a minute, and then maybe 10 minutes. Get kooky. All right, we're going to head to our next commercial break. You're listening to The Pleasure Zone here on Inspired Choices Network, and we'll be right back after this commercial.
Are you secretly a voyeur, wondering what's going on in other people's sex lives? What if now is the time for a totally different sexual evolution? Are you interested in people who are pioneers of different sexual and pleasurable practices? Lean in now with Milica Jelenic, where she will entice you and your body to know your own pleasure zone. On the Pleasure Zone radio show, with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and a foundation to allow yourself to receive more in your sex life, and quite possibly other areas of your life as well. Listen for The Pleasure Zone with Milica every Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific Time on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is The Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach, Milica Jelenic. To participate in the program today, join our live studio audience in our chat room at InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email, info@MilicaJelenic.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, my sweet, sweet pleasure seekers. And some of you are probably in the same boat as me, feeling kind of tired these days, maybe a little burnt out and going, ugh, am I ever going to feel sexy again? Well, the thing is, you will. If you choose to do some of these things that we've been talking about, looking at how your hormones are affected, figuring out what's going on. Sometimes you need intervention, and you might need to get, like hormone replacement therapy sometimes, but sometimes no. Sometimes you just need to do some lifestyle changes and support your body in different ways. And being able to connect with people on a regular basis can be really helpful. So some of the other tips that you can do personally for yourself to support your own sexual wellness are some really simple things. And I know that you might think, well, that's just too easy, but actually these are key. So one of them is to make sure you get enough sleep, especially for anybody who's AFAB, so assigned female at birth. If you have, or your body is supposed to have certain levels of estrogen going on, one of the things that you can get from really good sleep, not just sleep, but like good sleep, like deep sleeps, whether you're getting like, so ideally 8 to 10 hours of of sleep, but some really good deep sleep in there is important when you want to regulate cortisol, which will help also regulate estrogen and vice versa. And sleep is weird, but it's actually one of the things that can help you lose weight is your body is relaxing and your cortisol levels can start to normalize. Then all of a sudden, your body isn't in fight or flight anymore, and it can start to, I was going to say harmonize, but that's not the word. It can be balanced. So, one of the things your body needs in order to be able to be calm in sleep is enough water. You need hydration. There's like a formula, they say, that for every 20 pounds you weigh, you need 8 ounces of water, which is every 9 kilos, you need 250 mils of water, depending on what system you're working with. One of the ways you can tell if you're hydrated is if your urine is kind of like the color of straw. And movement. You don't need to overly exert yourself with exercise, but movement is helpful. Even just walking and moving. Don't sit in the chair all day long. Don't walk, move. Doesn't have to, you don't have to exert yourself. You might break a sweat for a minute. You could even break a sweat for a minute just cleaning your house and vacuuming. Excellent exercise. But also remembering that you need the deep rest and using all those things that we talked about in the last segment, like all the stress reduction tools, doing meditation by breathing, breath work, those mind body connections. And I love breath work. And I also love, listening to great tunes that help my body relax. Sometimes I just need to like rock out to some great music. Um, fun story, total side note, but listening to fun music just reminded me that no, actually, I'm not going to out her. I thought about a story. I have a friend who's Amish, and sometimes I'm not going to say her name though, just in case other Amish are listening and they happen to know her. Um, she's awesome. And the other day I got in the car with her and we were bopping out to the Ramones, and she'd never heard the Ramones before, but she was bopping to the Ramones. So, even when you've lived like a pretty strict lifestyle and, you could be Amish, you might like the Ramones and you might bop out to them to help you get relaxation going. So I thought it was the cutest thing ever. So stress reduction, like meditation, prayer, if prayer is your preference, journaling, art, anything creative, movement, dance, all of that. Oh, love it. And then self-pleasuring, guys, masturbation is really important. You don't necessarily have to masturbate to orgasm, but just connecting with your body. So you might just find that having your hands on your genitals can be incredibly calming. You see kids do it all the time. They fall asleep. They might be sleeping on their tummy with their hands on their crotch and they're just like relaxed. We have a lot of nerves down there, especially if you have a clitoris, 8,000 nerves in your clitoris. You don't necessarily need to stimulate it. You can just put your hand on there, receive your body, and feel the calming sensations. By all means, you can release a lot of stress and tension too in sexually, sexual energy wise, physically as well through masturbation. So I've done a lot of shows on masturbation, guys. If you need more deets on how to do that, go listen to them. But if you actually have really no experience with masturbation, you're like, I really don't even know what to do or how to do that. There are masturbation coaches out there. So you can absolutely look them up, check them out. I think I'm in my within my first year or two, I have to find who that person was. I interviewed a lady who was a masturbation coach. She might not still be alive. That was 10 years ago, but maybe she is. So just remember that self-care is actually important in looking after yourself. So, sleep, hydration, good food, exercise, things like caffeine are going to jack your body up. Things like alcohol are going to suppress your body. Too much sugar is going to create inflammation. So be mindful of that. Like, you can't just always try and think, oh, I'm going to have a coffee and then I'll meditate. Yeah, no, that's just actually not going to probably work. And if you do have a lot of coffee and then try and meditate and it does somehow work for you, maybe just try not having the coffee. And, try and meditate without that. Try and calm your body down, and doing kind things for your body. Like if you happen to be, on other drugs or like smoking pot every day, well, that's just going to suppress things too. You might temporarily feel turned on, and then after you'll be like, well, lethargic. Um, Cigarettes will do the same thing. Plus, they've got 4,000 chemicals in them, so good reason to stop that and reconnect with yourself. Get out of burnout. Look after you. You actually matter. So crazy concept, right? But it's that you need to know that you matter to you, and then other people can see that you matter as well. So when we look at everything from tonight, we've got all the ways, in the first segment, we looked all at how stress affects libido, how those cortisol levels affect testosterone by reducing testosterone, how, when cortisol levels reduce testosterone, they also affect estrogen, what that does to the libido. It pretty much destroys it because there's no priority for needing sex when you're in fight or flight, or your body is in frozen mode, or you're going back and forth and you're in bond trying to please people. Your body is not interested in sex. You need to be calm to be connected, and be connected to be calm, and to communicate well, to know what you need, to know what you desire, to have your body function properly, for your body to heal. All of those things are important. And making the time for your partner, because if you want to matter to your partner, you've also got to make sure that you matter to yourself, but also that your partner matters to you. And you need to show them that by saying that you would like time with them, making that a priority, putting it on the schedule. Maybe cleaning those windows isn't as important as you thought they were, and you can do something else. You know, that stuff will probably wait. It doesn't mean that you want to become a messy, disgusting hoarder. I'm sorry, I don't, that's actually a mental health issue. It's not that you want that. I need to adjust that. That was rude. Um, I say that because I've been dealing with hoarding in my dad's house. My dad's not a hoarder, but some of his tenants are, and it's been a stress. So you you know you want to be able to still navigate and look after your stuff and not necessarily create havoc in your life. So if you do have mental health issues like hoarding issues, you might want to look after that too, because that will create a massive amount of unknown stress in your life, in your body, in your family's life as well. So those are all good things to look after. And then doing some quick practices to boost arousal, whether that's like breath work, connecting with your partner, kisses, grabbing the butts, having some fun, making sure that you look after yourself with simple things like getting enough hydration, getting enough sleep, eating good foods, movement, all of that. All of those they're so simple, but so integral. So I know that you guys, probably a lot of you are avid listeners, but if you are a new listener, there are well over 400 episodes going back. I started this show in 2014. So there are 10 years of episodes that you can go back and listen to. And there are topics ranging from all kinds of things like kink and psychological things, how to overcome trauma, and like tonight, burnout. How do we deal with burnout? Because it's happening to a lot of people. We can also do things that are pretty simple in the self-care routine, like take stress vitamins as well, like B12, but combination stress vitamins are really helpful. And just really looking at what's important to us. Is your sex life important to you? And by sex life, again, it doesn't mean penetration. I'm talking about, is your sex life, your intimacy with your partner, is it important to you? If it is, show them that it is. And hopefully, if it's important to them and it's important to you, you're going to have and find a way to bring that back into your life because it's important and you need to prioritize it because it is important. So until next week, I hope you guys first go listen to more of my episodes, comment and like all of them, and stay tuned in and turned on for sure.
Thank you for choosing to listen to The Pleasure Zone with sex, relationship, and intimacy coach Milica Jelenic. We'll return next Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, and 5 p.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have the best week of your life by choosing to be turned on and tuned in to you.